And Michael even has a story from his own family to show that if you're nice to the fairies, they'll be nice to you.
My grandmother had some friends across on the other side of Ireland in County Galway. They had a horse, and their only chance of making some money was to win the steeplechase. Now these people who had this house took notice of the little old woman who came on behalf of the Pishrogs, the wee people. And they gave her something to eat, and they gave her something to drink. And she went away happy. And she went back to the wee people. And she said, these are good people, these people who live in the house. So the day of the steeplechase came, and the people didn't have a jockey to ride the horse. And the horse wasn't much good anyway. But along came a little man, a very little man. And he was all dressed up as a jockey. And he said, I'll ride your horse for you. And they said, well, all right, we're going to lose anyway. All the family fortune will be gone. We might as well let this little man ride the horse. And he rode the horse. And he beat all the other horses in the field. And the family fortunes were restored. And because of that, up to my time, and I remember this very well, the horse, which died at an old age, was kept in the front hall of the house for years and years and years. And people said, who was the jockey? And nobody could say who was the jockey, because just after the steeplechase, the jockey disappeared.
Michael O'Connor. So it's always wise to treat the fairies with a bit of respect. As well as being known for punishing ill treatment, the fairies are credited with rewarding kindness. But their gifts are frequently the stuff of illusion. If you tell of a fairy gift, it disappears. People who get money from the fairies and mention it will never get it again. But the worst crime of all is stealing from the fairies. This gets very harsh punishment. Here's the tale of honest Tom Tiddler, who finds some fairy gold and silver. He returns it to the hawthorn tree and is rewarded by being allowed to keep a bag full of pennies. Later, however, Mr. Fox finds the gold and steals it, and as a punishment is run to death by the hounds. The gold is turned into a pile of withered leaves. Gold has a habit in folk tales of turning into leaves, or even horse dung. The storyteller here is Ruth Tongue from Somerset. She's a very inventive and creative storyteller, and in this tale of Tom Tiddler, she calls the fairies Pharisees.
Tom Tiddler, he were out on the hill, on his usual pastimes, like, see, and he come on a little bag full of gold. Cool, say Tom. Finding's keeping. But maybe 'tis the Pharisees' gold. So he takes it away and he puts it in the hole underneath the Pharisees' hawthorn tree, you know, where they keeps all their gold. And he go on back on his work. And not very far when he finds another bag. Silver. So he done the same again. Third time he come along and he find a bag of pennies. Ah, it's more my size, says he. And he puts them in his pocket. Well, you know, even the curious folks round about, they never asked about a pile of pennies. And so Tom, by and by, were able to buy quite a nice little farm. And he done very well, too. Until there will come a time when his cows was overlooked. Off goes Tom to the hawthorn tree and he say to the Pharisees, "Yer, have you got a bit of luck to spare? I did bring back your gold and your silver. And the Pharisees, they calls out to him, someone have been and took it. Axe all as you go.
So Tom Tiddler did as the fairies told him, and asked everyone he met if they'd seen the Pharisees' gold. He asked the magpie, but he said he had no need of the gold. He asked the toad, but the toad had no need of the gold either.
And then he come across Mr. Box. Oh, he knows now, 'tis old Wizard Black on his ongoings. So he happened, he say, with both his thumbs and his fingers crossed and a handful of salt in his pocket, he say, please have he seen the Pharisees' gold? Mr. Fox, he showed in all his teeth. Good shotting, say was too. You be off, say he. And then Tom now do the feet for her. So he went off and he told the aunt. And they chased Mr. Fox all over the hill, and then ran him to earth at the hawthorn tree. And that was the end of Mr. Fox. But when they come to look under the hawthorn tree, there wasn't nothing there but withered leaves.
As in so many other folk tales, Ruth Tongue's story points a moral and shows how honesty or dishonesty gets its just reward. This next story also has a moral and shows how fairies can be kindness itself, if they think it's warranted. The storyteller is Packy Byrne of Donegal.
Well, there is a story told about this young couple who lived in a rather remote area. They had one child who wasn't very well. In fact, the child was so very sick that they knew it wasn't going to live. And one time a very severe snowstorm came on, and the man of the house went off to the mountain to bring in the sheep. So whilst he was away, the baby died. So the mother was sitting all alone at home with the dead baby when a rap came to the door. And there was a young woman on the doorstep with a baby in her arms, and the baby was crying. So the woman said, I'm very sorry to trouble you at this unreasonable hour, but would you have any milk for my baby? So the woman said, well, indeed, yes, you can have all the milk in the house because my baby just died and it won't need any more milk. So she gave the milk to the woman's baby. Now, the woman told her that she was a fairy woman, and she thanked her so very much and said, now you'll be nothing the worse of this, and she left. Now, on her way down the boreen, she started humming a tune, and by this time the man of the house was coming back from the mountain, and he heard this lovely air or lovely lament, and it sort of stuck in his mind. And it was very unusual to hear somebody, especially a female voice, out in the snow at 12 o'clock at night. So he came in. Now, when he came in, the wife did not tell him that the baby was dead. So he was moving about through the living room, and the little dead baby was in a basket at the fireside. And he kept humming this nice lament that he heard this woman singing down the boreen. And suddenly the baby in the basket started crying. Now, it was, of course, a return for the gift of milk, because the fairy woman's baby would die if it didn't get the milk. And of course, this child, being already dead, didn't need it, but the child in the basket came back to life, and the father reckons that it was really the magic of the music that brought the baby back to life, and the baby grew up to be a strong child.
The theme of a tune given or surreptitiously stolen from the fairies is a common one in folk tales everywhere. Another theme that occurs over and over again concerns the uncanny experience of being lost in familiar surroundings. You may remember Seamus Ennis telling an Irish version of this in our first programme. The Irish call this happening the Shaclan She, or fairy straying. The Cornish refer to it as being pixie-led, and in the Isle of Man it's taken at the fairies. Together with the loss of direction, there are often accompanying visions of strange, beautiful buildings and cities. I came across what might be an explanation of these fairy strayings. An old Manx fisherman once told of a potion brewed from a plant called gerlin that, if drunk, could produce illusions.
There is a plant here growing in the wheat. It's called gerlin. And that plant, if you take a handful of it and put it in a jug and pour hot water on it, you take a drink of that, and whatever the effects it had, it would cause you to be wandering in big buildings and round about in the cities and towns. There was one man up in the Gilkach field, and he had a drink of it, and he walked round about. He thought he was in a big city walking about and viewing the grand buildings and all, and he had a track going round about walking by the hedges, going around like if a sheep had been walking about. It affected him that much.
Now, according to the dictionary, this word gerlin is another name for darnel, a poisonous seeding poppy grass, which if taken does indeed produce hallucinations. Darnel grows in cornfields, and in the old days, when threshing wasn't as effective as it is today, the seeds probably got ground up with the corn and mixed into the flour. So it's no wonder people thought they were seeing fairies.
When the thrashing mills came round, all these up-to-date riddles, the fairies was all gone, and all these wonders that the people were seeing.
So what are fairies? Could they be the result of drug-induced hallucinations? Or are they fallen angels? They're probably whatever you want them to be. But if all they are is a figment of our imagination, I can't help wondering whether there really is still a need for us to believe in them.
Yes, I think for many people there is. You see, life is full of mysteries, isn't it? No matter how rational and sceptical you are about things. I think all of us is conscious from time to time of some sort of sense of an other world, of events that are not really explicable in terms of our own normal existence. And one way of coming to terms with this is to suggest this kind of mirror image of our existence and to project it into a kind of belief in some sort of other fairy and supernatural world.
Stuart Sanderson. Well, whatever fairies are and wherever they came from, I'd like to think that in some way they're still an active part of our tradition. I know Michael O'Connor thinks they are.
I've grown up in modern times. I've seen the television. I've listened to the radio. I read the newspapers. But I will never throw a bowl of dirty water out at night time, because maybe some of the wee people will be passing by, and if I dirty them,